Okay. Okay, Charles Nern. Mr. Nern, are you there? Whoops, you're muted, Mr. Nern. Can you unmute yourself?
Oh my God.
You're still muted. Can you hit the unmute button?
How's that?
That's great. Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Okay, you have 90 seconds to talk about, introduce yourself and your leadership vision.
I'm Charlie Nern. I'm 74 years old. I've been married to my wife, Susan, for 53 years. We have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. I retired from the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C. in 1989. After that, I did private investigative work with a group of retired homicide detectives. And following that, I was the director of safety and security at a private high school in Fairfax, Virginia. We have lived in Sunset Beach for 20 years. I am treasurer of the Committee to Honor America's Veterans, an active member of Sunset Vision, and I volunteer with the Old Bridge Historical Society. It has been an honor to serve you for 4 years as town council member. During my tenure on the council, we have made many improvements to services in the town. I would like to continue to do that for another 4 years. And for the next 4 years, I would work on improving infrastructure to keep our town from facing gridlock. I would fight de-annexation, which would have a negative impact on our town forever.
Okay, thank you. I think the beep didn't sound, Sue, but that's okay. I'm keeping track. We'll turn now to Richard Dysinger. No, I'm sorry, Michael Hargraves. I'm sorry.
Thank you. My name's Mike Hargraves. I'm running for town council. Professional background has been in education. I've served 40 years in education in upstate New York. I was a teacher for a period of time, became an administrator for the rest of that 40-year period. During that time, I think I've done a great job in how to learn how to think independently, work with others, and develop consensus when it comes to making decisions. In 2012, my wife and I moved to Sunset Beach full-time. 2014, I became president of the Sea Trail Master Association. When that was done, I did projects for the Master Association. I worked with a group to get our roads and streetlights turned over to the town, which saved the Master Association excessive amount of money. Worked with homeowners for 4 years on stormwater plans, stormwater problems that they have. Worked with the state of North Carolina and try to help homeowners work.
Are you still there?
Hello?
Yes, are you still there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear
Yes, we
me?
can hear you, yep.
Okay, could you,
Yes,
how
there was
much did
just
you miss? Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can still hear you. I don't know.
All right, the box is not circled, that's all. And so I have always been a person who gets involved with and gives my time and energy to causes that help others. This election gives me another opportunity for me to help the community of Sunset Beach that Judy and I have certainly learned to love. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Richard Dysinger.
Hello, everybody. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this. It brings back a lot of good memories. My mother was a member of the League of Women Voters when I was a kid, and I remember fondly the meetings that she used to sponsor in our home. My family has owned property here since 1991. So I have a feeling, I have a sense of the long arc, the evolution of Sunset Beach going back to the 1990s. But I also have the perspective of a transplant. My wife and I bought our property here in 2015, and we moved here permanently in January of 2020. And I think it's important to have leadership at the council that can identify and respond to trends that are going to influence the future of Sunset Beach that are outside of our town environment, that also has a strong foundation and understanding of what makes this place special in the long run. Secondarily, as an independent, not associated with any of the slates, I think I can bring an independent worldview. I'm not associated with any of the developers. I'm not associated with any of the incumbents who have served previously. And I think that's going to give me the ability to provide leadership that gaps some of the differences that we have and some of the challenges that we have going forward in terms of how we preserve what we love about this place, but also welcome new neighbors who want to enjoy what we cherish as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Corbett, John Corbett?
Fabulous.
Good evening, everybody. I'm John Corbett, and I'm seeking re-election to the Town Council, where I currently serve as the Mayor Pro Tem. I came to Sunset Beach after a 33-year career in the Army, and then 18 years with the company supporting the national intelligence community. But my history here began in 1991. We bought property in 95, a house in 99, and my wife and I arrived full-time in 2012. And throughout this time, I've had extensive involvement in the community, and I've participated in significant local projects. I'm first vice chair of the Committee to Honor American Veterans. I co-chair the Elks Veterans Affairs Committee. I serve on the advisory board for Sunset Vision, and I volunteer at Old Bridge. In my 5 years on the council, I've demonstrated a track record of dedication, integrity, and service to the community that I wish to continue. I do my homework. I understand our conditions, challenges, and issues we face. I work well with the staff and listen to and work with the community. I think moreover, I've demonstrated my willingness to devote necessary time and energy to working to keep Sunset Beach the great place we all came to live in. I will serve the whole community to the best of my ability to make sure Sunset Beach continues to be the idyllic place that we all love. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is William Bowe, and I don't see you here. Mr. Bowe, are you there? Mary Ellen, any problems with?
Now, can you hear me now?
I can. I just
Okay,
couldn't, I
good.
can't see you. Oh, there you
Can't
are.
see-
Sorry,
Yeah.
here you are.
Okay. So,
Great.
all right. I'm
Yes.
here.
Thank you. Okay, you have
Thank-
90 seconds.
Thank you, Barbara, and good evening to the citizens of Sunset Beach. Thank you for making this possible. I'm running because I hope to spend the rest of my life in Sunset Beach, and I want our town to become what it can be, namely a community of upscale homes, high-end restaurants, prosperous small business, beautiful parks, great golf courses, and a beach second to none. Also, would want a year-round economy. We know this is possible because we were headed in that direction before the 2008 crash. I've been a lawyer for 45 years, and trust me, I know who the client is. If you elect me, rather, I will be the town council, to the town council. I will represent your interests and no one else's. The reason I mention this is because there's a rumor that we are somehow tied in the hip pocket of Riptide, and some, I guess, have fallen for that. The truth is, we're not in the hip pocket of anyone. And if you look at our professional background and use your common sense, you realize that's the case. This pivotal issue in this election is the future and how we respond to the growth that's coming. If you elect our opponents, we'll never achieve what we can. If you elect us, you'll have the future that you desire. Our opponents can spend your money, but they can't deliver on de-annexation. They can't eliminate it. We can. That's the difference, and that's all the difference you need.
Thank you. Good timing. Okay, now we're going to turn to the substantive questions that the residents of Sunset Beach have put together and asked. And we each will have 75 seconds for your answers. We should have time in our hour and a half for about 8 to 10 questions, just so you know. And I've just sort of randomly selected who goes first and who goes second and onward. If I miss somebody, please let me know. Okay, question number 1. The land use plan provides that the town remain a small residential, family-oriented beach community with businesses that support tourism. What are your thoughts on this vision? Mr. Townsend, would you go first, please? And if you want me to repeat the question, just say so.
Go ahead and repeat the question one more
Okay.
time. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. The land use plan provides that the town remain a small residential, family-oriented beach community with businesses that support tourism. What are your thoughts on this vision?
Well, I think the vision is very nice. I'd like to know who formulated that particular land use plan. I don't know if that's with the county or state of North Carolina. So it'd be very interesting to me to find out exactly who made that the land use plan issue, because that's a brand new type of planning that's coming out recently. I do believe in a smaller town. However, I think bordering us is this massive amount of development. So we can't stay cloistered into this very small little town that's going to just not grow at all, not have the tax base that we need to keep things moving, and be the loggerhead for pretty much everybody coming to our beach, but not being able to even eat here most of the time. We go to other areas off campus to do that, and we're losing a lot of revenue. And all this growth that's coming around is from Angel Trace and on out across Old Georgetown Road, using our services, our police, our EMS, and our fire, and they're not paying for it. So we're kind of stuck, and we got to grow a little bit out of the small town entity. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Nurin, you're up next.
Hi. Well, first, the land use plan was done by sending a questionnaire to every town resident, and it was all put together. And you can look at the land use plan on the town website. All the problem is not in Sunset Beach. There's an awful lot of development all around us in the county, and we have no control over that. All we can do is work to keep up to date here in Sunset Beach, follow the land use plan, and continue to support development, both residential and commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Hargraves.
To carry on a little bit more what Charlie talked about, the 2017 Camet Land Use Plan is the vision for development in Sea Trail. In Sunset Beach. And what Charlie said is very, very true. That was put together by homeowners, not the town government. The town is mandated by the state of North Carolina. It must be renewed every 5 years. And it was put together by sending out surveys and having meetings at town hall. And what came out of that was this vision for the future, which de-emphasizes or emphasizes single family homes and de-emphasizes hotels and apartments and condos and all that type of thing. We still have in this thing, we still have a metropolitan area of Sunset Beach by this plan, and that's the area by Food Lion, which is our metropolitan area. But it's the vision for development in the future. And what the town council has done over the years is brought the United Development Ordinance, the laws of development in sync with that plan. It's the will of the people, the vision of the people has been renewed every 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Richard Dysinger, Mr. Dysinger, you're up. Do you need me to repeat the question?
No, that's good. Yeah, listen, the vision that was encapsulated in the master plan in 2016 and 2017 is what I think of and refer to quite often as big beach, small town. And that means limiting residential density, which goes against the interests of the developers, clearly. I mean, developers want to build more units so they can make more money. Nothing sinister about that. That's their business. But there has to be a way for us to bridge the gap between what developers need and what the town wants. And we can do that. One of the ideas that I've suggested is that we need to switch to what's called a mixed-use development program, where you create small commercial clusters within single-family residential developments. We've seen that success at Market Commons on a much larger scale in South Carolina. We've seen places like the House Restaurant at the VAC within Sea Trail succeed. Wouldn't it be great for a developer to come in and say, okay, lower density residential, but give me some commercial clustering that I can develop so we can build a restaurant within Sea Trail, build a restaurant within Jaguar Lair, so that neighbors can walk to a restaurant, ride a bike to a restaurant, or drive to it without having to go out on a main road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. John Corbett?
This is a really challenging question for all
Can
of
you
our.
wait just 1 second? We need to make sure the timing is right. I want to give you a number. There's equal amount of time. I'm looking at the timer.
You want me to reset?
It's 75 seconds, so that's, oh, got it. Great. Go ahead, Mr.
That's
Corbett.
75 seconds. All right.
I think so.
Development and growth is one of the big problems and challenges that we face. It's not a new challenge, it's been there. The 2017 land use plan articulated what the people in the community felt like they wanted to do. And it's a plan that needs to be updated every 5 years, according to the CAMA guidelines. And we, hopefully the next council will start working on that and take into consideration the very big changes that have taken place in the last 5 years. One of the things to keep in mind is that our unified development ordinance, as well as the zoning map, which defines what our commercial areas are, our multi-use areas are, and if you will, the mixed families, is all in line with the guidelines of the UDO, but it also represents the North Carolina Code of Building Codes that undermine how we build and put things together in our community. There is not a clear answer on how to do this, but there is a need for the community and the developers to be talking together, not threatening each other, not threatening de-annexation, but working within the codes. Our
Okay.
codes.
I believe your time is up. Thank
That's
you
good.
very much.
Within the
Appreciate-
codes.
Okay. William Bowe?
Thank you, Barbara. I think the key to our future lies in commercial development. I think we need to have a balance between residential development and commercial development and residential improvement. And I think the key to that is having the right relationship with the developers, not a relationship that's hostile and adversarial. And that's been the tradition of this council. And that's what's led directly to this annexation, which was referred to a minute ago. I think that we do need to take a second look at this land use plan, because unless we make some changes, what's going to happen is we're not going to have the commercial development we need. And as a result, the money and the opportunity is going to go to other towns. And our competitor towns will rise with the tide and feast on our bones. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, John Schrick. Mr. Schrick?
Thank
Are
you
you
very
there?
much. Thank
Okay,
you very much,
great.
Barbara.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a very complex situation, very complex issue that's going on here. Sunset Beach is faced with something that it hasn't been faced with ever. So, you know, everybody keeps talking about this land use plan and it's a 5-year plan and that it has, you know, needs to be revamped, you know, every 5 years. There is so much more to this than what we even know. Sunset Beach needs to have a land use plan or a vision, a roadmap that is 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years down the road. We need to quit being so short-sighted on this and have our plan 20 years out and reevaluate constantly. We need the citizens to be involved in this, formulate committees. We need to be able to grow a little bit to where we can expand our tax base from the people that are coming in to utilize things in our town so we can support our services. And that way we can continue to sustain our lives here, but we've got to do it with a longer term plan that goes 5, 10, 20 years out and reassessed every single year.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for that first question. Our second question is, what do you believe is the most critical issue facing Sunset Beach, and how do you plan to address it if elected to the town council? Our first speaker is Charles Nern, and I'll repeat the question if you'd like me to.
I'm fine. No, go ahead and repeat the question. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. What do
Awesome.
you, it probably relates back to the land use plan to extent. What do you believe is the most critical issue facing Sunset Beach, and how do you plan to address it if elected to the town council?
Well, the biggest issue we face is lack of infrastructure. All this building is going on, and I don't see any turn lanes going in at the entrances, no road widening. This is not up to Sunset Beach. This is up to the state. And all we can do is work with the state and hope we can improve this situation. That's
Okay,
it.
thank you. Michael Hargraves will reset the timer. Okay, you're all set, ready to go. Do you want me to repeat the question? Mr. Hargraves?
No, that's fine. I think the biggest issue facing us right now, is de-annexation, obviously. It's a request by the developers through our legislator in Raleigh to de-annex 1,400 or take 1,400 acres from the town of Sunset Beach. This will be various parts of the town of Sunset Beach, and it would be a devastating thing for our town if this occurred. Devastating. We want to certainly, let me start again. Negatively, this would impact the town horribly, I think. Certainly less taxes would be, less tax revenue would come in, and there'd be any loss of any oversight in development. So these two things are huge. The key thing here, I think we must understand and we must realize, is who controls development in the town of Sunset Beach. Will the town control development, or will the developers control development? And I believe the town must control development. Now, that doesn't mean we can't sit down and talk. That doesn't mean we can't compromise, we can't work together. But the town has to control the development in order to have the type of town that's envisioned in the 2017 land use plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It didn't beep, but you were right on time. John Corbett? Would you like me to repeat the question? Mr. Corbett, you're unmuted, or you're muted.
Barbara, this is the
Sorry.
timer. Barbara,
Yes,
before you ask the question,
sure.
the timer is beeping. I don't know why you're not hearing it.
I don't know. I'll try to be loud too, in case it doesn't come through. Thanks, Sue. I didn't hear
Okay,
you.
all right, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Mr. Corbett, do you want me to repeat? Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I've got it.
Okay.
I think the immediate question, the immediate challenge facing Sunset Beach is de-annexation and all the misinformation that's coming out through that. The basic premise of de-annexation is developers got to our representative and said the town's not talking with them and not communicating. And that's just completely wrong. There have been 5 developments in Sea Trail, 2 by Bill Clark, 1 by Mark Saunders, and 1 by H&H Homes, where they've had to have their architects, their engineers, their lawyers, and their lobbyists all communicating with the town, including communications with our representative Eiler on that. the development that's taking place. The issue is that the developers want to reverse the codes that have been put into place to protect the future of the way that we let space be used within our town. And that is a critical aspect. There's nothing that the developers have requested so far that, if they continue with their projects, cannot be accomplished. But what they can do, if we reverse the UDO, is change the whole process, and electing 3 new council members could do that.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bowe, William Bowe?
Well, I'll respond to the issue of de-annexation because I think it illustrates where the town council really caused the situation that we have today to occur. What happened was the developer in question, and that would be Riptide, purchased the property. And at the time he purchased the property, it was subject to the old code. He bought the property on that premise. And when he went to meet with the town council, with his engineers and lawyers, they refused to talk to him. And they refused to give him any kind of relief as far as grandfathering or anything of that sort. And I think that set the whole thing, the whole process on a negative trend. They were extremely hostile to him at every step. And it gets to the principle really of how this council is being run. The lack of stability was quite present. There were statements made on the record which pretty much killed the prospects for a constructive working relationship. But even after this bill was drafted, there were many opportunities for the town council to settle the bill, and they wouldn't do it. They preferred to work through lobbyists. So if you want to know why the problem is what it is, that's it. And that's why knowing that bargaining history, we know how to solve the problem, and we'll do that.
Okay, thank you. John Schreck?
Thank you, Ms. Barber. You know, I've heard everybody say that it's de-annexation, it's infrastructure, and quite honestly, those two are the very top priorities as far as what's facing our town currently. You know, it's not just about the community of Sea Trail, which is where this de-annexation issue has been brought up. It's not just one part of the community. You know, we need to look at the development that's going on around. We need to look at how the town is actually handling things within the town and how they are reaching out to municipalities, working together with people, looking at other avenues, working with the developers. You know, the biggest thing is we need to be able to fit all of this into what our UDO says here in Sunset Beach. The UDO was changed, you know, right after Riptide had purchased those properties over in Sea Trail. You know, so basically the town needs to come together. The biggest thing is we need to come together. We need to work out exactly what our plans are, get our plans together, and then start working together to benefit everybody and bring in the infrastructure that we need to preserve the town.
Okay, thank you very much. Good timing. Louis Townsend, our final person for this question.
Well,
Thank
thank you. And I will agree that I think de-annexation is our major problem that we face, because if this bill were to go through up in North Carolina, which has been postponed, what I've heard a little bit is until after this election to see if some civility can be brought back to the board with some responsible development and people to take care and listen to all sides of these arguments. There's a chance that we could lose 50% of Sunset Beach if you take out Bird Island. Even the mayor of the city in writing has basically said that would be a disaster. It would absolutely be the worst possible thing. And the possibility is that Sunset Beach may lose its charter. We may be lost and then brought into, you know, Brunswick County. I think it's the worst possible problem. And I think our current council has brought us to the brink of de-annexation, and it's time to get some cooler heads in there, work together, and then try to prevent this from happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for our next question, and keep in mind, I think a lot of.
Barbara,
the-
it's Richard Dysinger. I wasn't given an opportunity to
Oh,
respond.
Mr. Dysinger, I checked you off. Thank you. I'm sorry. I
That's quite all
apologize.
right.
Go.
Yes, this de-annexation issue is really critical, and I'm sorry, but Riptide hasn't acted completely in good faith either. There are no innocent hands here, but it is impossible to operate in a matter of negotiating in good faith when you're holding a gun to a community's head and saying, well, it's going to go off unless you do something. So every person, every candidate needs to declare unambiguously that they will oppose de-annexation of any sort. And anyone who isn't willing to do that, frankly, shouldn't be on the council. And that's not to say that the council has clean hands either. I think we need to do a complete reset in the relationship with Riptide. I understand they are under some constraints. Their position as a declarant in Sea Trails ends in 2024. So they are understandably in a hurry. I understand as well that they're currently in negotiation with Mr. Pan to buy the golf course. So that may change the terrain as well. But we need to sit down. The town council needs to, yes, act civilly, and Riptide needs to come to the table, having abandoned the notion of de-annexation. That's the only way this works. And anybody who isn't willing to say that out loud shouldn't be on the council.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry I missed you. And anybody else, if I missed you, please, ding, whatever, let me know. Okay. It seems to me that a number of these questions are sort of interrelated. So, keep that in mind when you're giving your answer. If you don't want to, if you think you're repeating something, just emphasize that to us and let us know how they are all related. Anyway, with our third question, with the recent growth of residential development in and around Sunset Beach, what are your proposals for the town council to prepare for the population increase? And Mr. Hargraves, excuse me, Michael Hargraves, would you like to go first, please?
Sure. Yeah, obviously, there's a lot of development going on in the town. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot more homes in the town, a lot more people in the town. The key thing here is, I've been moving around and talking to people. The key thing here is infrastructure. People are talking about that all over the town. They go onto the roads, they see the roads as more crowded than before. They are seeing more problems, some with water problems, the lack of pressure in water. What we have to do is we have to, as a town council, even though we don't control infrastructure, infrastructure is controlled by the county. When you talk about roads, you talk about water, you talk about sewer, you talk about electricity. When a builder decides to build, they have to do an impact study. That impact study has to go to the county. The county okays the building and sends it back to the town for the actual building of the development. When you talk about 904, 179, that's the state, and we have to put pressure on the state in order to get them to upgrade roads, in order to get them maybe to deal with traffic miles per hour, speed limits and so on. So anyway, I think I've overdone it here, but
Okay,
that's about it. Thank you.
That's okay, thank you. Mr. Dysinger, Richard?
Could you repeat the question?
Certainly, with the recent growth of residential development in and around Sunset Beach, what are your proposals for the town council to prepare for the population increase?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows that everyone that's attending this meeting is very concerned about the wave of development that surrounds us and how Sunset Beach is going to respond. I supported the special use permit that was passed. I support the increase in lot size and setbacks, and it is an attempt by the town council to control what it can control, which is to tap the brakes on residential density. We are going to have, I had a meeting with Paul, the fire chief, and he's very concerned. I mean, we all understand you can't make a left-hand turn out of the post office anymore. And as you build more residential houses up on that road, he's very concerned that you're going to see more rear-end collisions. That's going to have an impact on the quality of life here. There's so many things that the town council can control, and the ones that we can control, we should control. And that means negotiating with the developers to help them understand, hey, let's figure out how we can increase commercial development a little bit, give you an opportunity to monetize that kind of development. But town density, we're going to tap the brakes on it, because right now we're trying to get 8 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag. And if there's anything that destroys an ideal community, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. John Corbett.
This is continuing to be a very interesting conversation. I agree with the one area that is overlooked, I think, is that our ability is actually to describe what our ability is to control what happens outside of us. We have participated in transportation studies and are promoting reviews from 904, from the 17 down to Sunset Boulevard, on Old Georgetown Road, on the speed limits, the turn lanes, and traffic circles. These are long-term programs that are controlled by NCDOT, and the town for at least 3 years has been strongly advocating in those areas, working to make sure those roads can accommodate the needs of the future. But it's something that we don't control, we advocate for. The special use permit and a density was mentioned by Mr. Dysinger. Those changes happened after all of the developments that I mentioned earlier came into effect, and do not affect any of those developments that Riptide and the other developers have put into place. So it's misinformation to think that that is stopping them from going ahead in their programs. I went over,
Okay.
sorry about that.
That's no problem, no problem. You're doing very well, everybody. William Bowe, Mr. Bowe?
Yeah, I've tried to think about this a lot too and dig to get whatever information I can, but it seems to me we need to have a process here. The first thing we have to do is develop some reliable projections as to how fast that growth is going to come, where it's going to come, and how we're going to deal with it. The story I've heard is that there will be 7,000 new homes within 5 miles of the town center. And if that's the case, we need to get really drilled down on that so that we have specifics. We do need to evaluate the infrastructure. We know it's inadequate, and we need to know how much it should be expanded on what timetable and how that expansion will be funded. When it comes to dealing with developers, we've got to look at experience. Can he deliver on the project? What's the proposal? Is it consistent? What does the town get out of it? And is it consistent with the town's plan? Public safety has been the interesting one. I've interviewed both the police chief and the chief of police, and the fire chief. And the problem is that we've got 16 miles of area to cover, and 5 miles are within the town. We've got to provide 24/7 service. And today, 10,000 people in town on any given day, and it's going to surge when we get the kind of growth we're talking about. So, and then the response time for the police has got to be within 5 minutes or under 5 minutes if possible, and 4 minutes for the police, for the fire. So
I think
we have to
your
do a
time is
lot
up.
of work here.
I'm sorry,
Pardon me?
your time is up. Thank you very much. John Schrick?
Thank you, Barbara. Well, with the people with the population that's coming in, the biggest issue that I'm seeing here when it comes to the town is we're talking about the infrastructure, we're talking about the roads, we're talking about the people that are going to be coming into our town. But I attend the planning board meetings, at the county. I attend all the TRC meetings and this kind of stuff. You're right, we do have to put pressure on Raleigh as a council, but I have yet to see a representative from Sunset Beach attend a planning board meeting that has to do with the Stone Farm project, the 3,500 units that are going in over off of Old Georgetown Road. All of the various different projects that are coming in here. I have yet to see our current council attend these meetings, put something in writing, work with the developers to address some of the water issues, the sewer issues. These are the kind of things that we need to start getting involved in. We need to start advocating for not just the roads, but for the water, the sewer, for our public safety and services, those kind of things. And that's where we need to start hitting things really hard. And that's what I intend to do on council.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Townsend?
Yeah,
You need me-
yes,
Do you
I'm,
need to repeat the question?
no, I'm fine with that.
Great.
There's
Okay,
a lot
thank
been
you.
said, and I agree that this is a very difficult question to answer. However, I do think the council has to get a voice in these other development areas that are happening around us, because as I said, and I agree 100% with getting more EMS, fire, and police. I've talked to the chief of police and the chief of the fire department. They're stretched to the brink right now, and they have no plans at all coming for how to fix that. I think that as the council needs to be able to have a voice in these other developmental areas and looking at the infrastructure, but also everything that John was talking about. But if we don't have a unified council, we're not going to have a voice in these where we actually can go out and reach out to the developers of these surrounding areas and at least open up a conversation, because that's what we need to do to see how we can improve altogether the densities and also improve the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Nern?
Yes. We can't tell the county what to do. We can't tell the state what to do. The State Department of Transportation will tell you they don't have money for these roads. Well, to me, they're going to have to find it, or the town will shut down. There's the developers come and they want to build, they want to make money. That's fine. That's how our system works. But one thing you have to remember is when the development is done, the developers are going to move on and leave us with their problems. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, our next question is, what are your ideas about policies to protect Sunset Beach's abundant wetlands, designated as, quote, of exceptional significance from pollution? Our green spaces, including golf courses, our tree canopies, and our residential coastal environment for overdevelopment and pollution. So Mr. Bowe, would you go first? Do you want me to repeat the question?
I think that's a very significant issue because the island is very important to our future. It's part of our identity. It's where everything started. I think what we have to do is we have to meet with a group of citizens that understand those issues. They understand them, and we've been in contact with them, as a matter of fact, and they've raised a number of concerns. It also goes into the issue of dredging and what an impact dredging is going to have on the oyster population, and whether that's been handled well by the current town council. So there's just a lot of things that we have to look at the entire spectrum of risks that we face in that area and bring the right people together. And many of them are right here in this community and they want a voice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Townsend, Louis Townsend?
I think that, again, this is something that is very important to Sunset Beach. As we probably all know, Sunset Beach is the only island that actually gains sand. Ocean Isle and Holden tend to lose it, and they spend a lot of money dredging up better sand for their population. And that's why we're going to be very, very popular. And we're going to have a lot of issues with pollution. And that's just even from trash and other areas, because people are going to come here. This is a very popular beach. So we have to be able to protect it a little bit better. I absolutely 100% agree that the dredging is going to be a problem down in the future environmentally. And I think, in my opinion, the South Jinks Creek dredging project, which is going to start, is, I think, a terrible mistake. And I think it's going to cause irreparable harm to parts of our island with erosion. So to me, that's a very big threat that we have right now, and I don't know how to stop it. The other dredging should be going on because it needs to, but no deeper is my policy. No deeper dredging, but I don't like South Jinks Creek dredged.
Okay, thank you very much. Richard Deisinger?
Thanks. Yeah, Sunset Beach is very well positioned. I mean, historically, Sunset Beach has done a great job of restricting construction close to the ocean, protected by the dunes. We were successful in getting Bird Island set aside as a preserve, and that's just an incredible environment that we need to make sure that we preserve. I don't want to talk specifically about the dredging issue, but I do think an area that we're going to have to deal with at some point is the fact that golf course participation has flatlined since 2016. And you can see the golf courses that surround us that are shutting down. I know for a fact that the Pearl has shut 9 of its holes, and the Williamsons are preparing to build condos in those places. There's going to be a lot of tension between, can we keep the golf courses vibrant, busy, or are they ultimately going to shut down and now present an issue as to how do we handle that? Are developers going to come in and attempt to use that real estate for development purposes? I think that's an issue that's probably a couple years down the line, but it's coming.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Hargraves, Michael Hargraves?
Yes, the environment obviously is very crucial to this area. The beaches we have, the land we have, all the free space that we'd love to have, and so on. However, the federal government plays a huge role as far as environment is.
I've lost sound.
As far as
Can we hear you? We're losing your sound.
can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
we'll give you more time.
Okay, I'll start again.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I don't know what,
All right. The town council has enacted resolutions over the past number of years that deal with these issues of environment. And the issues I'm talking about are federal issues that deal with offshore drilling, wind farms, deal with seismic testing. All the town can do, and what the town's doing very actively right now, that I've learned about, is that they are sending resolutions to other towns and cities along the coast and are sending information to the federal government on why we oppose all these things happening. Seismic testing, for example, hurt our beach. It certainly could damage the beach and the wildlife in the ocean, obviously. So the town council is involved, and it's also just joined the North Carolina Resilient Coastal Communities Program, which deals with global warming. And so the town is active in looking at these things. The town has done things to become involved, and it has to continue to do that, and continue to do that very strongly, especially with the federal government. Thank you.
thank you, thank you. Mr. Nern, Charles Nern?
Yes. Dredging is a sensitive issue, but dredging is needed. South James Creek needs to be dredged. Without an exchange of fresh seawater, everything will die. Do you want an example of that? Mad Inlet on the west end. It closed up, and if you walk back where it used to be, everything is dead. There's no sea life. There's no breeding ground for juvenile fish. It's dead. And that same thing can happen if we don't dredge Jinks Creek. Now, to be fair to the property owners, they're the ones that's going to be paying for the dredging. It is not going to cost the town.
He takes way too long in doing his ruminating, okay?
Was I cut off there?
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry, I
Because-
don't know what that was about.
I mean, because he has
Do
like,
do you have anything else you'd like to say? You have about 10 minutes. 10 seconds rather, excuse me.
No.
Okay, thank you for. Okay, next is John Schreck. Let us get back to our 75 minutes. Hang on. Okay, Mr. Schreck?
Thank you, Barbara. We're talking about green space and we're talking about, preserving, what's beautiful here. And I've heard a lot of different things about, the island and dredging. There's so much more to this than just the island and the dredging. We've got wetlands that are mainland here. We're forgetting about our other part of Sunset Beach, over off of Forest Drive, over off of Seaside Station, Oyster Point, Sea Trail, Windfall. We've got so many different areas that are affected by our wetlands. They're affected by our flood zones. They're affected by, our Cobra zones. We've got so much more, and 75 seconds does not give me enough time to talk about this. But the bottom line is we need to preserve those. We need to find a way for the development to happen responsibly, keep it low density, but get around these wetlands to preserve our watersheds and our our water storage, and to preserve our water, the aquatic life, what we have going on within the canals, out on the ocean. We need to take into account, the global warming. All of that stuff are things that I deal with every day when I'm dealing with the floodplain issues and dealing with the resiliency stuff.
Okay, thank you very much. And John Corbett?
There are a couple key aspects on this topic. First, I am one of the effective landowners, property owners for the dredging. And when I got appointed and then got reelected, it was to support dredging, which has been a 5-7 year process. All of the criticisms have been looked at and defended and approved by the authorities, the Corps of Engineers, Coastal Resources, CAMA, North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, the National Marine Fisheries, that with the conclusion that dredging is beneficial to navigation, it's beneficial to the marshlands, it keeps the fresh water going out there. And I'm working and still propose to continue this project to go. A bigger picture is the town has worked seriously for the last 3 to 4 years, developing stormwater plans and implementing stormwater plans to help protect our coastal areas. And we are working hard now with the Resilient Coastal Plan, identifying areas that are vulnerable to natural disasters that we need to take care of. And kind of looking at it, the idea is we need to survive. We need to be able to survive. We need to be able to recover. And then we need to be able to move ahead when we get hit by a natural disaster or a storm in our coastal areas.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on. What is your perspective on the Uniform Development Ordinance's definition of additional multi-family housing as one common entrance exit for 3 or more households, for example, apartment buildings? Mr. Hargrave, would you like to go first, please?
Would you
Want me to
repeat
the
that?
question?
Yeah, would you repeat that question?
Sure. What is your perspective on the Uniform Development Ordinance's definition of additional multifamily housing as one common entrance / exit for 3 or more households, for example, apartment buildings? Got that?
I think so. I think what I'm hearing here is what's my reaction to the UDOs, the United Development Ordinances, which are the ordinances of building in Sunset Beach, as they apply to multifamily dwellings. I think I'm hearing that correctly. Now that was a change in the UDOs in the early part of this year. It was part of bringing the UDOs up to that 2017 CAMA land use plan. What happened there was that some of the developers felt, and I agree with them. They felt that they had plans into the town already, and the town was changing the rules. And what happened there, which I was happy for, was the town council backed off, and the town council allowed anyone who had plans in before this. Thus.
I'm sorry, we're
Or is it
losing
the
you.
beach
I
resort?
don't know. Go ahead.
All the developers were able to go and now develop under the old codes and of multifamily. So I think most developers have been treated very fairly on this. And they should move forward to development. Please, they should work with the town on this, go to the town, work with the town, and hopefully move forward on their developments without anybody saying they can't do it anymore.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Mr. Corbett?
The UDO and multifamily homes, as I see the issue has been, the developers are unhappy that they have to go through a special use permit process for their multifamily developments. Now, the current one that's in place there at Eastwood Bluffs is not affected by this, and the one at Sunset Ridge is not affected, or H&H development off of 904. They're affected by the old rules, and they can go ahead and do their projects. What the special use permit does is it requires before the final approval that the developer come to the town and convince that what they're doing is in the public benefit, that they are not affecting negatively values or the environment, that it's in harmony with the area where the development is going to be put in there, and that all the standards have been met. It goes through a quasi legal process, and they check off the boxes, and there's nothing to be concerned with. And that's in the town's benefit, that they
Okay,
have to comply.
okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bowe?
Well, this is interesting because I moved into Sea Trail in 2017, and I'm right there at Eastwood Bluff. And when the developer purchased the property, subject to the old codes, we felt that they would be building townhouses as part of my townhouse project. But the council took the opposing position. They refused to do that. What they proposed in lieu thereof was condominiums, which would have destroyed our community. So I became pretty concerned about that. And I had communications with council and didn't get anything back in return, nothing satisfactory. I'm glad to hear it's the old saying, you know, never despair when wisdom comes late, because sometimes it never comes at all. But the point is, during that initial encounter with the developer, that's where a lot of the stuff started to go south. And he couldn't get any hearing from them. And as a property owner, I felt aggrieved as well. So that's going to continue to be a problem, because that's the perception throughout North Carolina about this town council. That's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Townsend?
When I listened to this question about the change in the UDOs and everything, I think you kind of go back to the history and look at Sea Trail as an entity, that the undeveloped properties in Sea Trail, going back 20 years from my understanding, is that they were all zoned for multifamily housing, all of them. So it would be, you know, the right of a developer to come in here who is the declarant to go ahead and put multifamily housing on that. Of course, they had to go through the planning of that, but of the town and the town council and the planning committee, but it would be multifamily. I think the fact that this developer has chosen to only have 50% density of 100% that they could build, I think is a pretty reasonable compromise to building 100% density. They're only building 50. So I think that's a good thing for Sea Trail. I think it's a good thing for Sunset Beach, and I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Schrick?
I hate to ask this, but can you repeat the question, please?
No problem at all. What is your perspective on the Uniform Development Ordinance's definition of additional multifamily housing as one common entrance / exit for 3 or more households, for example, apartment buildings?
Well, I guess it does get back to dealing with, condos versus multifamily residents, that kind of thing. And I guess I'm going to, mirror what, Dr. Townsend had to say, that, when it comes to that, the development itself, we want to keep our density low, obviously. We want to, I guess for lack of better terms, I think the special use permit when we come to multifamily townhomes going in is a bit excessive when condos can be approved. I think that we need to revisit and revise, what our UDO says and take a look at how things are handled to better, take care of the town, take care of the lower density, and make it a little bit easier to lower our density, but go ahead and get these things permitted. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Dysinger? Hang on till we get the time. The time is right. Go ahead.
Can you repeat the question just one more time? I apologize.
No problem. What is your perspective on the Uniform Development Ordinance's definition of additional multifamily housing as one common entrance / exit for 3 or more households, for example, apartment buildings?
Well, they always say that the devil is in the details, and this is one of those issues where the assignment of apartment density in terms of how many units compared to how many doors really is relevant to a larger question, which is, what do we want the overall residential density of town could be? To be honest, this is an issue that's been back and forth throughout the history of Sunset Beach. They built the Regency, and immediately after they built that 5-story facility, they incorporated a rule that said, well, no, from now on, you can only build 3 stories. So I understand Riptide's frustration to some extent, but my understanding is right now, they have everything they need to build Eastwind. If there's something that's delaying that, we need to sit down and discuss it. But it's not an issue that should permanently discolor the relationship. And frankly, I don't really care that much how the rest of North Carolina views Sunset Beach. We need to come to an agreement between the people that are trying to build houses so other people can live here, and those of us that live here already and want to preserve the essence of why people want to come here in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nern?
I was a member of the UDO committee. It was made up of citizens, realtors, developers, and some consultants. The process was rushed and we missed some things. As we discover these things, they have been changed. As far as multifamily goes, the special use permits are there to protect the other residents of the town. It's, as far as the townhouse problem in Eastwood Bluffs, that's been approved. They're selling townhouses there. Nothing changed. We have to continue to work with our UDO because without it, everything
Go ahead, you can finish. We can't hear you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Something happened.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead. We'll give you another half a minute or so.
Right. The UDO and the CAMA land use plan should be followed. That's the plan we've had and it's worked well. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry this sometimes gets a little mixed up. Okay, our next question is legislation at the state level has been introduced to de-annex certain areas of Sunset Beach circumventing town council. What is your perspective on this issue and how would you address this situation? Mr. Bowe, would you go first? And if you would like me to repeat it, I'd be happy to.
That's kind of a rehash of the question that was asked earlier, an issue that
That,
came
that
up.
could be, so whatever you like to add, go ahead.
But we can go over it. Obviously, our position is we're unalterably opposed to de-annexation. We know the effect that it would have on the committee. We would probably lose our charter, but at the very least, we would lose half our territory and half our resources. That issue has to be taken off the table so we can get on to the more important issues, like how we're going to handle its growth. I guess that's, how would I handle it? What I would do is I would do what the town council hasn't done. I would negotiate to try to make sure that we reach a consensus, and if that can be done, and I think there's opportunity to do that now, I think we can make that issue go away, but it has to be the right people doing it. And the thing that has to be achieved, I think, is that we have to convince not just this developer, but the community as a whole, and also the business interests, that we're going to have a working relationship with them moving forward, and not the hostile one that we had at the beginning. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Corbett?
We are, continuing to rehash this de-annexation issue. There are two ways to stop de-annexation. One is what the town is doing is trying to put forward solutions and explaining to the developers the legislative processes and the routes that they have to go ahead and request changes. And several of those areas, such as the getting past the roadblock on Eastwood Bluffs, have been done to a positive result. The other way is to elect a set of council members who will just go back in and change the codes so that the developers can do whatever they want. It goes back to a point that was made earlier. Is the town going to manage the developers, or the developers going to manage the town? And de-annexation is a crux in it. And it's sad that our legislative representative has listened purely to the developers.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Townsend?
Again, obviously this is a very important subject, but I think from what I heard, and the answer to your question is, I think we need to have a more proactive council elected. I think this council has had its chance to deal with this problem. From what I understand, this goes back all the way to the bridge, that the causeway that went over to Sunset Beach, and it was a 10-year project to get that built, from what my understanding is by the history, and it was put off for a long time. And I think that this is one of the problems that Frank Eiler, our representative, was concerned about, just kind of the same old sluggish way of trying to do business with this town council. So the way I would handle this is get a town council in there, open up the voices, listen better, be more civil, and then hopefully the de-annexation will go away. We have to work with our representative for that. And so I would do that first and foremost when we are elected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deisinger?
Yeah, we have to come out unequivocally opposed to de-annexation, and anyone that wants to serve on the town council needs to just declare that. You cannot expect the town council to negotiate in good faith when this is hanging over its head. So, I can say unequivocally, I think it was an act in bad faith. We understand the frustration that caused it, but now we need to get back to square one, acknowledging that both parties need to amend their behavior, act more civilly, listen more carefully, and come up with constructive solutions. But that only begins once we've all abandoned the idea of de-annexation. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hargraves?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Corbett and I agree with Mr. Dyson.
Just 1 sec, let's get timer going.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, it's fine. Go ahead. Thank you. I just want to make sure you had all your time.
I agree with Mr. Corbett and I agree with Mr. Dyson. I think that holding Sunset Beach hostage through D is totally the wrong thing to do. It is totally wrong from the developers. The developers want to develop and we respect that. But they're, by saying this, by going in way of de-annexation, they're saying they want to develop their own way, make their own rules, and just go on and develop the way they want to develop without any guardrails from the town. The 2007 land use plan, the UDOs, they're important and they must be followed. They've got to be followed. However, there's always the opportunity to talk. There's always the opportunity to come in and talk to the town planner. There's always the ability and opportunity to compromise. And we've got to all recognize this. But the developers cannot hold this town hostage. Again, the developers will eventually leave. What will they leave us with if they get their way in de-annexation? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nern, Charles Nern?
Yes. The annexation is not a dead issue. My understanding is that Representative Eiler is holding off till after the election. If 3 of our opponents get elected, they won't need to de-annex. They'll be able to go and change all the rules. That would mean the developers controlling Sunset Beach. I'm trying to carefully word this.
I appreciate that.
The town is negotiating with the developers. If anybody says there aren't, they're not telling you the truth. We have been negotiating with the developers all along. We will continue to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Schrick?
Thank you very much. So I believe that everybody is opposed to de-annexation. That is unequivocal here. I would hate to see the de-annexation occur. I absolutely would hate that. It's all for the certain properties within Sea Trail. The de-annexation issue came up because of a breakdown in communication. And if the current council wants to say that they were talking and negotiating with the developer and they just didn't get their way, so they went away, that is untrue. The de-annexation issue came up because of a breakdown in communication. That is what we need to bring back, is the communication between the town, the developer, and the citizens. We need to come back and preserve our community, be able to have rules in place that don't change on a dime, and set forth, agreements. We may need to negotiate, but the developers are not going to get everything that they want. But we need this town to sustain our way of life here, and yet still be able to survive with all the other development outside. So we've got to come together for this, and that's what this is about.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, since Brunswick County controls water and sewer to Sunset Beach and North Carolina DOT controls the roads, what are the ways that you see the town council, can advocate for the interest of Sunset Beach resulting from increased population? Mr. Schreck, would you like to go first? You just had a response, so.
Thank you very much. Actually, like I said, I do work for the county and I do review these plans, and you are correct that Brunswick County Public Utilities is responsible for those things, and you've got DOT that's responsible for the other stuff. The one thing that we can do as a town is we have infrastructure that's going in. We can obviously attend the planning board meetings. We can obviously advocate to Brunswick County Public Utilities and DOT, but moreover, why can we not work with our developers and say, okay, we're going to need a bigger water main, and you're putting in this development over here. How about you assist us in doing this if we're going to give you, if it's going to be a give and take? Let's work together. Let's look for some of this grant money that's out there. There's grant money out there for sidewalks currently, for sidewalks and golf cart paths and everything else that nobody's applying for currently. We haven't looked outside this area. We need to start looking towards public utilities. We need to start looking towards the developers to assist us. We need to start pushing on DOT and trying to do some of these traffic impact studies. There's grant money out there to do additional traffic impact studies. Those are the ways that we need to address this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bo?
Yeah, I think it really revolves our ability to secure these additional resources that John is talking about, and our ability to advocate with other levels of government comes down to who's doing the advocating. I think that has a big piece of it too. What I think is that with a change in town council, I think that we would be more receptive. They would be more receptive at all levels. What I haven't mentioned yet, but you need to know, is that the current council has done major damage and has isolated the town from huge organizations, our senators, representatives, commissioners, and from grant money. I think with new people in charge, I think those spigots would be more inclined to open up and we would get a fair hearing. What I haven't done is I haven't showed you a lot of the testimony that was given in Raleigh about how Sunset Beach is viewed. But I think what I've just said kind of sums it up. We need a change in town council if we're going to really move the ball forward and respond to the growth that's coming. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Corbett, or am I repeating?
No, I haven't had this question yet.
Okay, I'm
Would you
sorry,
read it
I was
again
getting
one more
lost
time,
there.
please?
Yes, sure. Since Brunswick County controls water and sewer to Sunset Beach and North Carolina DOT controls the roads, what are the ways that you see the town council can advocate for the interests of Sunset Beach resulting from increased population?
The premise of that question is that the town does not advocate at this time, and it does not take care of advantage of grants, and it does not work with the various authorities that are out there. We've been working with the GSAT, the Grand Strand Area Transportation Study, advocating for and getting progress in terms of a bridge over the Calabash River on Beach Road, which affects our ability to evacuate. The widening of 904 from 17 down to Sunset Boulevard, Old Georgetown Road. Those things have been going on and are continuing to go on. We worked through and we got grants, and we got grants that helped us build the bicycle lanes. I'm sorry, that wasn't a grant, but we worked through NCDOT to tie on to a repaving project so we could do bicycle lanes along Sunset Boulevard. We did work with them also to get bike lanes on the Main Street on the island. We continue, and the town has for many years, worked through the various agencies to advocate for the improvements that we need that take into account the growing populations. And one of the big things is we have been one of the parties that have been leading the local community's efforts to get the planning for the Grand Strand, the Carolina Bays Parkway, SC 31 extension up to this area to go inland of US 17 rather than having all the routes close in on 904 and 17 at the McDonald's and then turn into a super highway north of that to Shallotte. The point being,
Okay,
we do a
I
lot.
think we have to, your time
We do
is
a
up,
lot.
I'm sorry.
That's it.
Mr. Dysinger?
Yeah, could you repeat the question again?
Since Brunswick County controls water and sewer to Sunset Beach and North Carolina DOT controls the roads, what are the ways that you see the town council can advocate for the interests of Sunset Beach resulting from increased population?
Well, I think John has summarized a lot of it. I mean, there is grant money available. You know, there are professional grant writers that we could potentially hire to make sure that we're getting full coverage in terms of the grant opportunities out there. And we have to be a petitioner. I'm not too discouraged that some may think that we're not that well-liked or positioned within a political environment of North Carolina. Political environments change. And we need to stick to our guns and state what our interests are plainly and petition for them forthrightly. And a lot of that is resource related. It means you have to have people to do that, lobbyists, grant writers. And that's something that the council needs to focus on so we can make sure that we're taking advantage of every opportunity to get what we need done in terms of sewage, water quality, infrastructure such as roads, that we're getting the best bang for the buck that we can possibly get. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nern?
Well, Mr. Corbett and Mr. Shirk have covered these two areas. I don't have anything to add, except that we need to just keep pushing, keep moving, and trying to work with the county, the state, and the developers.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Mr. Hargraves, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I agreed again with Mr. Dice and Mr. Corbett. However, the key word here for all the people listening, the key statement is we do not have the direct ability to deal with these things. The key word is advocate, advocate, advocate. We need to get out there. We need to make sure the county knows what we need as far as infrastructure is concerned, the water, sewer, and so on. We need to, that state needs to hear us loud and clear about our roads, about how many of our developments along Georgetown Road, for example, empty into a 55-mile-an-hour highway that is disastrous for some of our drivers coming out of our major developments like Sea Trail or Sandpiper Bay and so on. We need to advocate, and we need to continue to advocate so that we are able to have our voice heard. And hopefully maybe the speed limit on Old Georgetown Road can be changed a little bit. Maybe stoplights can be put in. Maybe acceleration lanes may be put in to help the situation for our drivers in Sunset Beach, who are mainly, many times, senior citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Townsend?
Yeah, I don't think I have a whole lot more to add about the issue of trying to get the state to help us. I think to be a better advocate from the board level will probably be important for all that. Everything else I think has been said. I think it's one thing I think it's very, very important. Tonight we've done a lot of focusing on, Sea Trail and then the island. There are a lot of other residents here that also have to have good infrastructure and probably need to have newer infrastructure in other areas of Sunset Beach that we've not talked about that are not going to necessarily be developed highly at this particular point in time. And again, I think we need to advocate for the entire town when it comes to all these renewal of infrastructure programs, because without doing their renewal either, then we're just kind of dealing with old infrastructure that's just not going to get improved over time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've gone for 90 minutes, which is what we said. So what I would like to do now is to end to your 90 seconds that each candidate has for a closing statement in which you can address some issue you think is important and has not been addressed in this forum, or something about yourself or your candidacy that we have not heard, or your vision for Sunset Beach. So you have 90 seconds for a conclusion, and if you think there's something we missed, be sure to recite it, or something that you think is most important to you. I'm going to go, since I went in reverse alphabetical order in the beginning, I'm going to start with the alphabetical order. Mr. Bowe. Anybody got that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Robert. I think for me, it comes down to a pretty simple proposition. You can go left or you can go right. One One option obviously would be to batten down the hatches against the growth. And I think that's been the thrust of what our opponents have done. And I think if we do that, I think the likely result is going to be a town where the golf courses deteriorate, convention center stays closed, commercial businesses atrophy, and people move to our beach, burden our infrastructure, but leave no revenue behind for us. And our taxes go through the roof. I'm concerned about that. By contrast, if you do what we're proposing to do, which is to trim our sails, then and move with the wind, make this growth work for us, not get trapped by it. I think we can have fully funded golf courses. I think we can have local businesses that prosper. Convention center can reopen and become a cultural mecca for that matter. Public parks, required green spaces. We know this is possible because this was the path that we were headed on before the 2008 economic crash. I think we've got to get back on that course. And that's why I think we need a change in town council.
Okay, thank you very much. John Corbett, Mr. Corbett?
Well, once again, thanks to the League of Women Voters for putting this on. There are a lot of key issues that have come out here. The town council has taken a lot of shots here, and some of them are accurate and some of them are not quite accurate. A lot of the criticisms that I hear and the objectives sound an awful lot to me like the newsletter I read a week or two ago from one of the major developers. The town council with the current setup has done a lot for the infrastructure in terms of stormwater, in terms of the road repairs. We have developed a capital improvement plan to track all and pay for all the major equipment that needs to be renovated and updated over a period of time. We have bought new trucks for the fire department, increased the size of the fire department. We have bought vehicles, increased the size and the staffing of the police department. We have gone through and revised the salary scales and of the town staff so that it would be more competitive with our neighbors and more attractive and work better for retention. We have done, and probably the big thing is a stormwater program that affects both the mainland and the island in terms of helping us be prepared for storms. It's been a good council. I'm happy to have been on it. I'm proud to have been on it. And I'd like to continue to serve for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dysinger?
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity to the League of Women Voters. This has been a great forum. Just a couple of things off the top of my head. Any entity that looks to its past to create a greater future usually fails. The convention center is a dead letter business, okay? As someone from New York that deals with convention center and special events, the convention center needs to be repurposed. That's an excellent opportunity to create some commercial infrastructure that the town could support. And I think, you know, we keep going back and forth on this binary town council developers, town council developers. It's not binary. It's not either or. And we have to find a way to work together to protect the interests of the developers who have legitimate interests and to protect the integrity and the essence of the town. And that's why as an independent, I think I'm better positioned to do that. And I think as someone that has one foot as a transition and person that's migrated to this community and a person that has been here since 1991, I can bridge that gap and create a better future, not based on what happened in 05, 06, 07, 08, but based on what's going to happen with the new kind of people that are going to buy in this community and how the future of this community can be shaped, but what's happening in 2022, 2023, and 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nern?
Thank you, Barbara and League of Women Voters. We appreciate the work you did on this. I was actually going to say pretty much what John Corbett said. We stand on our record. A lot of things that have been said tonight are far from accurate. look at our record. We are not living in the past. We're moving towards the future. My concern now is with the residents that currently live in Sunset Beach. Everything I do is for their benefit. When people move into these new homes, then I will be looking out for them. I've worked hard for 4 years. I want to work 4 more years to make this a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Townsend.
Basically, there are a lot of things that have been said tonight, which I think are good. And I think things that have been said tonight that are not so good. But the most important thing, if you elect me for town council, is the first thing I'll bring back is civility to the town council. And I think this is a basic issue. I want to form committees of the residents and actively engage in the decision-making process so they have input as to what will happen. And I'll listen to the business owners and favor business development. I'd also favor responsible, common sense growth with developing maintaining needed infrastructure, which is critical for managing growth. I eliminate the threat of de-annexation. I will deal with stormwater management, work citizens to help resolve dredging issues. I'll create plans of the police and the fire department and EMS to increase recruitment, training, staffing, and technical support. I talked to the chief of the fire department, and he said he is understaffed right now, especially with this development. And I want to focus on our town budget to make sure our core priorities are being committed to and keep the tax rate low. And I agree, if everybody, the town council has had their 4 years right now, and if you like what they've done, then, and they said all their promises, then reelect them. If you think they have not, it's time for a new vision. Try a different election process this time around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Mr. Schrick.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity. You know, I've heard a lot of eloquent speaking here tonight, and I've heard some things that basically we've taken shots and we haven't taken shots and so on and so forth. My campaign is basically this. I have the experience, I have the insight, I'm in the process, or, you know, I'm in part of the process of approving subdivisions. I get the information in. I have the experience with the grants and the grant writing. I deal with floodplain, I deal with zoning, I deal with the stormwater issues on a day-to-day basis. And the reason that I'm running for town council is because I want to bring what I know and what I have been doing for the past 5-6 years to Sunset Beach to make it better. The issues that we have are, we've got people that are making decisions, and we've got people that are, you know, trying to formulate opinions. What would be better, or what wouldn't be better than to have somebody who is actually in this every day, that can bring the experience and the knowledge to council to help guide a proper decision, regardless of who gets voted in. That was my whole platform, was I want to get in here. I'm a building inspector, floodplain administrator. I know the development process. So let's take this to a different level with experience and training.
Thank you very much. And in conclusion,
Hold it, Barbara, I never got a chance.
I'm
Mike.
sorry. I deeply apologize. Thank you for speaking up. Go ahead.
I just want to make a few comments about my abilities. I agree with a lot of what's been said tonight. I agree that the current town council members have done a great job as I've researched what they have done, the movements they have made, what's happened in town council. And as far as town council and civility is concerned, we didn't have civility in town council 3 or 4 years ago. Jamie Phillips and Tom Borman ran 2 years ago, ran on the issue of civility. They were elected by a landslide. And since that time, the council members have worked together. They've worked cooperatively. They haven't all agreed, as I've talked to all of them, but they certainly have agreed upon how to do business in a calm consensus form of way. So I don't think there's any problems right now with that issue in town council. I pledge, though, if I'm elected, I will certainly research, I will certainly seek input on all issues, just like I did when I was president of the Sea Trail Master Association. I'll certainly try to increase communication. That's needed to be increased. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I'm not supported by any special interest group. I'm an independent thinker, and I strive to do what's best for the citizens in Sunset Beach. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for this evening. It was a difficult, 75 seconds is tough to respond to. It was difficult for all of us probably to do that. But if anyone out there who's listening tonight have any questions, please go to our website, sunsetbeachelection.com, and I'll email me, and I'll certainly spend some time with you to try to explain and discuss the issues. Thank you for watching tonight.
Thank you. I didn't leave anybody else out, did I?
No.
I would hate to do that. I would hate to do that, and I'm sorry. Thank you all. You all were generous with your time and your answers to the questions. And remember that the questions were put together by residents of Sunset Beach. They're not League of Women Voters questions. And so those are the things that seem to be very concerning to the citizens. We have a lot of questions in the chat room. I'm not sure how we will deal with those. But hopefully we'll be able to do something. And I want to thank you all. Thank you, the citizens of Sunset Beach, and thank you to my timekeeper and our person who constructed the forum and kept us going. It's a new adventure for us. So again, thank you all very, very much. Appreciate
Thank you, Barbara, very much for all your help.
your efforts
you.
to become a
Yeah,
leader
thank you,
in the
Barbara.
community.
Thank you,
You're
Robert.
very, very welcome. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good
Okay,
night.
good night. Goodbye.
Thank-
Good luck in your campaigns.